Let's move on now.
Thank you for being gentle with Ethan Hawke.
That's all right. Let's move on now to our final review of the evening. Ben, any result on?
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus.
Lady Killers, Disney Plus. We'll watch it for sure. Let's do it.
Nice.
Moving on now to our final review of the evening. It is of Don't Look Up with a runtime of 2 hours and 18 minutes. It is a 2021 American science fiction comedy film written, produced, and directed by Adam McKay, who brought us recent films such as The Big Short and Vice, and starring an ensemble cast consisting of Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Rob Morgan, Jonah Hill, Mark Rylance, Tyler Perry, Timothy Chalamet, Ron Perlman, Ariana Grande, Scott Mescudi, Kate Blanchett, and Meryl Streep. It tells the story of two astronomers attempting to warn humanity about an approaching comet that will destroy human civilization. The impact event is an allegory for climate change, and the film is a satire of government, political, and media indifference to the climate crisis. Produced by Hyperobject Industries and Bluegrass Films, the film was announced in November of 2019 and sold by Paramount Pictures to Netflix several months later. Lawrence became the first member of the cast to join, with DiCaprio signing on after his discussions with McKay on adjustments to the script. The rest of the cast was added through 2020. Filming was initially set to begin in April of 2020 around the US state of Massachusetts, but was delayed due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. It eventually began in November 2020 and wrapped up in February 2021. Don't Look Up began a limited theatrical release on December 10 of last year before streaming on Netflix just 14 days later. It received mixed reviews from critics who praised the cast but were divided on the merits of McKay's satire. Some found it deft while others criticised it as smug and heavy-handed. Despite the critical reception, the film was named one of the top 10 of 2021 by the National Board of Review and the American Film Institute. It received 4 nominations at the 79th Golden Globe Awards, including Best Picture, Musical or Comedy, and 6 at the 27th Critics' Choice Awards, including Best Picture. Don't Look Up set a new record for the most viewing hours in a single week on Netflix and is currently the second most watched film on Netflix within 28 days of release. Netflix subscribers seem to like this one, currently boasting an IMDb rating of 7.3 from 361,000 users, whereas the critics are a bit more discerning with a Metascore of 49. Rotten Tomatoes, gents, take your guess.
Gonna go with 55.
Yeah, I was thinking similar.
I think 40.
I'm going to say 52.
Mira nails it, 55%.
Oh!
On the money, rotten
The
for an
money.
Adam McKay film. Jason, what do you think
Okay.
of Don't Look Up?
I liked it.
No, I liked it. I like it.
I liked it.
You liked it.
I liked the quirky off kilter film style that this one went for. I think it's always kind of been there with his filmmaking, but this one really leaned into a bit of the off kilter. Like, it's really evident in like the opening credits. It's like, right? So
How's it go?
it's a one-time show. You just have to watch the VOD, which is available on YouTube.
Bloody smooth as. Loved
Thank
it.
you. So yeah, I think a lot of what it was trying to say was very like on the nose. You know, like just I think I kept thinking about what Ben said once. It's like Armageddon is one of the best films ever because everyone listens to the smart guy in the room, whereas this is the complete opposite. When no one's listening to the smart people in the room, and they're just like, how much money can we make?
That's such a
out of
fun
all of
take.
this? Yeah, like how much money can we make out of the apocalypse, basically? Like, it's crazy. Like, here are some people literally handing you, like, what can kill everyone on Earth, and saying we need to do something about it right now, and they're at the precipice of stopping it, and then they're like, you know what, let's make some money. But yeah, and it's like everything is really like there on display. Like a lot of there are a lot of movies I like to pick apart and go, oh, okay, they did this because it's a, you know, a parody or a satire of this and whatnot, but this is like how the GTA films is like a satire and parody of America. This is like the GTA of films. You know, they had the Bubba Gump fish restaurant there, and they changed it to another name, and then they've got the Facebook corporation, then they've changed the name of that as well, and you know, the whole "Don't Look Up" campaign and you know, she puts on the cap, which is kind of like the MAGA cap as well, and it's just like very on the nose of like this is like what I'm referencing to our real life, you know, and putting all of that on display with this one big main thread, or what the story is of, like, you know, a huge rock from space is going to plummet towards our planet and basically kill everything, and how everything gets involved, you know, watching watching Jennifer Lawrence at the starting off like, okay, cool, this is like the president, this is like the smart people, they're like, okay, they're going to handle it, and then watching her progressively get more and more like frustrated and just suddenly lose it, like on in that scene. It's just like absolutely lose it. It's like, it's kind of like, it was kind of, it's like, yeah, I totally understand why she would do that, because she's young, she's naive, whereas like
She's
Leonardo,
also really intelligent.
oh yeah, very smart as well. And like,
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio has been around the sun a few more times, and it's like, okay, no, he's simmered down a little bit more, but even he gets to his wit senses as well. Like, you know, why isn't anyone listening? Basically, I think they did a really good job in saying what he had to say. Adam McKay, that is, through the film. I think that the way he did it is what some people may have found a bit of friction with. Yeah, I think the filmmaking was, the edits were really cool. Like when they would cut to like stock footage of the world, or Earth and nature and people, kind of reminding you, you know, as much as this is crazy, and it, like, at the end of the film as well, kind of like right in front of you, reminds you like this is what life is all about, you know, like, just
Big Short did it really well as well.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
shots to incomplete suburbia, you know, construction that stopped, that sort of thing, in the midst of this financial crisis. Yeah.
The acting is really cool. Mark Rylance played that smart philanthropist really well, and Meryl Streep. What's to say? But Jonah Hill's character, I think he played the role really well, because by the end of the film, like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah. So dense, and definitely, like, I don't know. I don't want to steal.
No, it's fine. I'm almost finished anyway.
Yeah.
I'll just say Timothy Chalamet towards the end. Didn't expect him to play that character the way he did, but yeah. I recommend go watch it. Gary?
I liked that the political system was criticized broadly. There were elements of criticism that could be leveled at both major parties within America, and I think that was a really nice olive branch to extend on the director's part to his audience, because you don't want to polarize one viewer group because of a political statement, but you still want to make the political statement. And so, like, the stupidity of the chief of staff, who is the literal son of the president, you could apply that stupidity to Hunter Biden just as you could to people's criticism of Donald Trump Jr. And I like that, because like, I'm not American. I have probably watched too much American politics for what would be normal for someone who doesn't live in the country. I have a stake in the country's existence or success, but I like that the film allows you to poke fun at both sides of the political party, because it's this inaction and this priority where, like, they're prioritizing the wrong thing. They're more worried about re-election and optics and funding and all of that kind of stuff. And I love that the film addresses this idea of, like, a platinum level donor, and that's who this tech guy is. And I love that the tech guy is an amalgam of, like, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Jeffrey Bezos in one, where he's like quirky and eccentric, and obviously not a dummy, but he has created a product that exerts a high level of influence and control. And like, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but like the sons of Leonardo DiCaprio are sitting at home with their mum, and the proposal happens between Ariana Grande's character and DJ, whatever his face was, and they pull their phone out and they're like, "Oh, my phone's purchased an album. I didn't tell it to do that." Like, it's this algorithm knowing that they would, as a result of this, purchase the album, and just anticipating that need and purchasing it for them. Like that, I love that. It's kind of like that's where we're headed. That's the statement that the director is making with that kind of thing. It's interesting the way that he did it. I think it's a little heavy-handed at times. The way that he approaches this, like there are elements of his satire that are definitely unsubtle, and I think that that's fine, because the message that he's trying to bring across is one that you probably don't want to pull punches about. You don't want to risk people losing the meaning that you're trying to convey, which is whatever it is that humanity are doing to the world is not necessarily a good thing, and it's probably not going to be sustainable in the long term. I'm not necessarily on board with the catastrophizers that say that the world is going to end within the next decade, or within the next 2 decades, but anything that causes people to think more sustainably about what they do and the decisions that they make, and think less materially, are things that I'm definitely on board with. And so I hope that some people watch this film and introspectively think about their purchasing decisions, and stuff like that. Like, I'm not going to be vegan, I'm not going to be a vegetarian, I'm still going to eat meat, but I'm going to think about where that meat comes from, how often I purchase it, and how often I eat it. It might not make a huge change, but it's something that I've been made conscious of, thinking about this film and others. Yeah, it's like the seed kind of planted. There's a lot of scenes in this film where I was not anywhere near hysterics, but really tickled by. There's a lot of little things, like contrasting Jonah Hill's prayer. And he's like, stuff, I just, people praying for, all these people and stuff to go right. But, I'm just really thankful for stuff like plasma TVs and all of this sort of stuff. And you contrast that with this skater kid, anti-establishmentarianism kind of, grew up in a Christian household, Timothy Chalamet, and you contrast his prayer at the end, which was like, as a Christian guy, I'm like, that's a pretty solid prayer. Like, that's a really solid prayer.
He prayed good.
He did. He prayed good. He prayed hard. And it was like, I love that you have these two different contrasting kind of views, where someone is definitely not thinking about the broader thing or demonstrating any level of piety, just showing that, like, all he was doing by praying was showing how shallow and vain and two-dimensional he is as a person. I love that the smart guy's algorithm, he like swears by it. He's like, we can predict within 96% accuracy how someone's going to die. And that whole conversation that he has with Leonardo DiCaprio's character is really interesting. And without spoiling, like, where that prediction goes right and where it goes wrong is kind of funny, and also I'm kind of glad that he was wrong on one of those counts. Yeah. What else did I want to say about the film? I didn't like Leonardo DiCaprio's arc as a character. Like, parts of it make sense because his character is corrupted slightly by the spotlight that gets shone on him and the reception that he receives from this media elite, and by extension the people that he sees that have seen him on the TV. So it kind of makes sense, because I like a very old saying, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it kind of makes sense that someone who has been very well respected within his field, like I love that opening sequence where they're doing the math, and like something that he's done well, the director in this film, was establishing the threat in a really believable manner. It's like, here are some people that spend a very large amount of their time observing the sky through very powerful telescopes, and they're doing math, and math is inscrutable. Like, not inscrutable. Like, once it boils down to this thing, it's like the math checks out. Like, and there's no two ways about it. This thing is on a collision course because our observations and our statistical modeling, which are tried methods that are valid methods of mathematical equation, back up what our eyes are telling us through the telescope and what the equations are coming out as the result. And I just love that conversation where Jennifer Lawrence is like, why is that number getting lower? Like, why does it keep getting lower? And then the last number, he writes 0.0, and he's like, and he has to pause because it's 0. It's literally going to make impact, and he has to, like, he just tells everyone to go home, and he like rubs it out because he wants to keep working out on the math, but he tells her to stay because he's like, you've found something that's going to be the doom of us all.
Let's name it after you.
Yeah, exactly. Let's name it after you. The film starts like Armageddon does, or Deep Impact. You've got these smart people making observations, but then it takes a hard left turn to crazy satire town when they meet the president, and just get like the cold shoulder. Like they get what's the word that I'm like. They're not a priority. They're an inconvenience. Like, I want to say cold shoulder, but it's like it's worse than that. They get acknowledged, but they're told you are not like, we've got a problem to deal with, and the problem is of our own making and has very little impact in the broader sense of humanity and the continuity of the species. I think one of my favorite through lines for the whole film happens in that scene where there's this military general. He's a 3-star general.
Yep.
He goes and says that he's going to rustle up some snacks for them, comes back, and he's just got bottles of water and little snack pack sized
Like pretzels or
packets
something.
of chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, or pretzels or something like that. And he's like, yeah, I found these, $10 a piece should cover it. And I'm like, $10 of American dollars for food is not a small amount of money, even with inflation. It's like, anyway, bottle of water and a small packet of chips, and they all pay. And then Jennifer Lawrence discovers immediately after that the snacks were free, and she can't let it go. The whole film, like, the film will cut to her mid-conversation with someone, and she's like, why do you think he did it? I just can't make sense of why he would, like, he has to know that we would immediately find out. Like, it's not like it's a secret that those things were free. So why did he charge us? And like, we were going to see him again. Like, we saw him again. And she just can't let it go. And I love that it was this continued through line in the film. It doesn't really have any bearing on the overall film. I just love that it happened and that she couldn't let it go. It got a chuckle out of me every time you came to her and she was in a conversation with someone new about this general shafting 3 people, one of whom was his friend, for $10 a pop. It was yeah. I think the film's good. I would recommend it, giving it a watch. Yeah, it's certainly not the best Leonardo DiCaprio film I've ever seen, but I think it's the first one of his films I've seen this year, so it's the best one I've seen this year. Yeah, enjoyable.
I think I heard this is the first film of Leonardo DiCaprio like leading that has gotten a rotten.
Oh, right.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah, in Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, and I don't think that's his fault. I think that he performed really well. Like, I will say, all of the performances from everyone were believable for what they were trying to portray. Like, Gwyneth Paltrow's character, not Gwyneth
Kate
Paltrow.
Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett. That's like
Which, by the way, I saw, and I was like,
I'm
that's
so
Kate
sorry,
Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett. Like, yeah, it doesn't look a hell of a lot like her, but she did a phenomenal job of being who she was and who she was intended to be. So yeah, really solid performance. Ariana Grande's type of character really gets on my nerves.
Yeah.
And she certainly got on my nerves because it's the type of character that she is. So she did a great job of portraying that character. Yeah, movie's silly. Enjoy a silly film. Yeah, that's
Mr.
all.
Movies, Adam McKay delivered one of your favorite, if not your favorite film of all time, in The Big Short. What did you think of Don't Look Up?
I don't love all of Adam McKay's movies. That's for sure. Like the comedy stuff he did before The Big Short, and then The Big Short came out. I'm like, this guy is the best. He's the goat. Shane. And then, what did he make after that? He made
Vice. I love Vice.
Vice.
Yeah, he made
Love
Vice,
Vice.
which was also really, really fun. And I didn't know he made this until, to be honest, like 45 seconds in, where like the movie like pauses and there's like a subtitle that like corrects something that somebody says. I can't even remember what it is. It's like
Oh, it's like, this is the thing and this is the logo?
something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Oh no. Oh, is this? And then I like quickly like Google the thing. I'm like, it's Adam McKay. It's going to be so great. And that coasted me all the way to the end. Like I was like, yay, I'm liking it. I'm still liking it. And it was really good. And it was very good. They definitely, man, Adam McKay really turned the salt and the satire to 11 in this film. Like it is stronger than anything he's done. I was extremely frustrated watching it. Like like he wants me to be frustrated. He wants this build up of potential self-righteousness, like, see, I told you I was right the whole time and you didn't listen, but it's too late. Like, it doesn't matter. Like that whole...
It doesn't matter that I'm right.
Yeah, so like, I really want that beat to hit. Like, we were right the whole time. Everyone else was looking down and we were looking up and we were right and they were wrong. But it, like, if we're right, it's all for naught. Like, we're fucked. And it doesn't, like, it's literally the last thing that matters to point that out. And so that was really frustrating. Like, just knowing that, watching this movie the whole way through, like, oh, nothing's going to matter in the end. Everything that everybody's doing, nothing really... Yeah, that whole thing was extremely frustrating as an audience member. The thing that I loved, which unfortunately changed halfway through the movie, was how the audience is the punchline of so many jokes. Like, I am the victim of the metaphor of the movie as a consumer and as a person that's not doing more and all that kind of fun stuff. And I loved that. I loved watching that, knowing I'm laughing at myself. And then it was a real shame, I thought, that it turned very political after the halfway point and it became laughing at the right. Like, it was a very politicized...
Yeah.
Now it used to be everybody is to blame. Like, I read a tagline that was like spot on for what I wish the movie really was the whole way through. And I read, I think it was from Netflix. 2 astronomers go on a meteor tour to warn humanity of a planet-killing comet hurtling towards Earth. The response from a distracted world, meh. And that was perfect for like the first half of the film. And then it became became a skit, like a Saturday Night Live extended skit. And it was still fine. It was very satiric. It was very funny. Jokes flying left and right the whole way through. Completely unrealistic, but also kind of on point at the same time. Really, really fun stuff. Like they got too Trumpy with the presidential stuff that was going on. Like, it hit its peak where they're all like chanting, don't look up," when you can literally see the comet, and they're still denying the existence of the comet. Like there is no such thing as the comet, and I'm not going to look up to validate. That's just what you would want me to do.
Yeah.
And finally, like, a redneck just noticed, like, he sees a flash of light. He's like, what was that? And he sees the comet, and he's like, hey.
Yeah. You guys lied to us.
Yeah, they lied to us, you guys. And they like start rioting and something like the peak of ridiculousness right there. Like absolute nuts. Like so silly. But still he makes it funny. I was still giggling the whole way through. Terry, you already mentioned the Jennifer Lawrence thing. She was my favorite comedy vein for that film. And the thing I loved almost more than her comedic performance of like, well, it started with like just her singing Wu-Tang to herself while she's working in the observatory. I just love that. And then the stealing the $10 from us thing, like she just kept harping on that. I love that gag, how it kept repeating. I loved how the movie wrote her this humor that she never does herself, in the sense that the comet is named after her, and that people keep bringing it up as if it's her fault or something that the comet exists in the first place, and she gets no reaction to it. Like she doesn't get room to be angry at that or whatever, like, because there's more stuff going on in the scene or what have you. But I love how there's very clearly no room or chance for her to react because there's bigger stuff at play. And that's not even the fact that there's the comet coming to wipe out humanity. It's what's the topic of the day or whatever. It's what's currently trending or whatever. So I loved that joke that wasn't said there that McKay wrote for us. I really loved that. I also loved the wholesomeness and so this also comments on what you said, Terry, about how you didn't like DiCaprio's character, how he I don't think there's no real main character to this film. There's a few, so it's like Dr. Randall and Kate Dibiasky, the two scientists, they're kind of the main character together.
Yeah.
But there's no hero to the story. There's no one that rises above the foibles of humanity, who is right all the way along and doesn't stumble. Like, everyone fucks up, and Dr. Randall fucks up a lot. And they also don't really have like a classic redemption arc to gain back their honor, to gain back their trust, to prove that they are really good and hearted, and that they just made a mistake and they learned from it.
Even his wife is like, at the end, is like, oh, I slept with blah 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 in college.
Right. I loved that despite we're in this crazy satirical turned up to 11 parody of everything, that there was a tiny little bit of wholesomeness and realism there that is the opposite to regular movies. I liked that nobody was the perfect saint and everybody screwed up, and nobody has just a easy path back to redemption, to some form of catharsis or anything like that. It's just, we're just going to have a nice meal together, kind of. That's all you can hope for, kind of message. And I quite liked that, thinking that that's the point of it. But like, again, I was so angry and frustrated for a huge chunk of this film. And I watched it with Caitlin and her family, and a couple of times through the movie, I had to like console Caitlin's mother, who was just like distressed and frustrated, like beyond grief, and at the impending doom of humanity and the utter helplessness of it all, and the fact that this is funny but it's not funny enough to make it worth experiencing. And I was just like, there Tracy, and she's like, it was really funny. Watch how everyone else was taking it as well. I quite liked it. I loved the craziness of all of the characters that are performance characters, like Cate Blanchett and Tyler Perry heading up the breakfast show, and Mark Rylance being the blend of billionaires and the president and the chief of staff and stuff. How they all got like perfectly white, ridiculously too large for their face teeth, and can barely talk properly with the size of the teeth in their mouth. I don't know what it was about that I loved, to be honest. I don't know why I brought that up, except I wrote it for Mark Rylance. Mark Rylance's teeth is just
it was
perfect.
Ridiculous.
And it made his voice do this thing that, like, he was still doing a very Mark Rylance-y thing, but it made it have this lisp to it that brought it to another level. I really loved his. I love Mark Rylance. He's the best.
He is the best. Yes.
He's so good, and he's the guy that I guess you could say he's a character actor because he's the guy that at the end, everyone was saying like that guy who was the billionaire. You know, they don't know people don't know exactly who he
Yeah.
was, and oh, where have I seen him before? And you bring up all these other movies. It's like, oh yes, that's right, he was great. Oh yeah, that's right, I remember. He is so good in that. And yeah, so again, another notch for his belt for sure. I reckon the way that he just did that over optimistic, greedy billionaire thing that he pulls off there. So good.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think it was a real divisive, brilliant shiner of a film. Like I totally get how it's uh,
Mm.
got
Mm.
a critic score the way that it does because it's just like it wants a whole lot of people to hate it, like really does, and I
Mm.
think it's achieving that very well.
Yeah. Indeed.
That's me. I couldn't stand this film. I despised it.
Interesting.
I don't think it's any fault on the filmmaking of it. I think it's well structured in what it tries to achieve. But to your point, Ben, like the salt and the satire is just dialed up so much that I was not laughing at this film. I think I chuckled 3 times, and they weren't for the humor around the main context. It was all side jokes. It was when Ariana Grande turns to Leonardo and says, "Shut the fuck up, old man, like mind your own business."
I love that moment.
That moment was amazing. I did enjoy that through line that you mentioned, Terry, with Jennifer Lawrence's character, but again, it's got nothing to do with the main plot. I think this film, like, and again, Ben, to your point, this is clearly what the film wants to achieve. Like, you want to hate these characters, you want to be frustrated with this whole situation. I just think, for the most part, I couldn't get over the fact that this is not a laughing matter, and every single character embodies the worst parts of humanity in the 21st century. And I couldn't reconcile that. I was minute by minute, I was like, I'm hating this. This is reminding me about everything I despise with the world right now. And I can't enjoy this as a film anymore. So yeah, I really, really struggled with this one. I saw what it was trying to do. It was just like amping up that ridiculousness, and the ludicrousness of these different characters and their stereotypes. And man, yeah, I couldn't stand Jonah Hill's character. I actually think it was actually poorly written. In fact, I wondered if some of his scenes were improvised, and if he just did a really poor job improvising them. Because I just thought they weren't, other than just being an extra layer of stupid, they weren't really moving that, I suppose, core message along much further than so many other great characters that were written in this film were doing already. And that's my point. Like, I think this is a very well written and well constructed film. To the points that's been established, Adam Kay was, clearly trying to achieve here. But yeah, I couldn't get over the fact that this was highlighting the worst parts of humanity, and I didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy, honestly, the mirror being held up to my face, sort of thing. Like, and not to say that I personally embody any of these characters. I certainly hope not. But yeah, I couldn't enjoy the film, and that's the thing. I just don't think it was for me. I wouldn't say it's a bad film. I'm looking at the poster right now. It says based on truly possible events, and that just makes me sad. Makes me really, really sad.
Yeah.
I would say when Comet being the thing, it's like theoretically possible events.
True, yeah, but again, I mean that line based on truly possible events is again just the allegory, right, for this whole thing. Yeah, this film just made me really sad and depressed, and I didn't like it.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Gotcha, Shane. Gotcha. Right where I wanted you.
Yeah, I'm that 45%. Yeah, there's not much else for me to say. I don't want to continue to shit on the film anymore. But look, I loved all the actors in this one. They did fantastic jobs. Leo in particular. That opening moment, to your point, Terry, that you mentioned. Just the way Leo communicates the severity of what he has just realized is masterful through body language and just non-spoken performance.
He's floored by it, and you can tell.
It was amazing.
The camera work just started from afar and it really came to an extreme close up.
You could hear the panic in his voice. It's like shallow breaths. He was absolutely genius in that. And
in that scene, that's the first time McKay tells us that people are stupid, like by nature, because he's in they're having a party, they're celebrating the discovery of the comet, all that kind of fun thing. And there's a bunch of, supposedly really smart people behind him waiting for him to figure out, just how close it's going to come. And he's just like, sorry, guys, you guys better go home because it's not going to happen. Kate, can you stay? You should stay.
Yeah.
Who is fooled by this? But then they're just like, okay, Dr. Randall, and they just like leave or whatever. It's like, that's like where it starts to slide down the stupidity scale for, yeah.
I will say there was one moment that I actually enjoyed. It was the moment where you've got Kate Blanchett, Leo, and Melanie Linsky all in the same room together. I won't try and spoil that scene.
Yeah.
But it was quite refreshing to see, the most frustrating character in the room immediately diffuse the situation with one comment that completely disarms another character. And they're just forced to confront the truth there and then. There's no rigmarole around the pain or any fight or any back and forth. It's just like, you actually, what she's saying is right. Let's just cut to the chase. What's the go? I really, really enjoyed that part. And I thought it was very smart to come from a character who most would assume was the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah. And I like the reveal that she isn't a dummy, but it also adds to the frustration that someone so smart would be willing to be the dopamine delivery system, I think it's Aldous Huxley's A Brave New World, where I first encountered the line of it's like a narcotic for the masses, or an opiate for the masses, religion, where media has become this type of thing for it. So someone who's supposed to be and is presented as so intelligent is so willing to be a participant in we're not really going to talk about the truth, we're not really going to like panic about the facts, like we're just going to sugarcoat everything because it helps the medicine go down. And I'm like, that's not what that song's about. Like, a spoonful of sugar helps medicine go down that's not about rejecting reality. But she's willing to be part of it. So I found that an interesting and conflicting thing, because it made me feel conflicted about the character, and it also made me hate them from a different perspective. I'm like, you have how many master's degrees? Like, what? And you're this like bimbo on the breakfast show. Like, I just don't. It doesn't track that they were willing to compromise. Like, where it's almost like the Up in the Air line. Like, how old were you? When was it that someone convinced you to first give up on your dream, or whatever that line is that he delivers to J.K. Simmons? It's like, I want to ask that question of that fictional character.
And there were like, not to completely crap on the film, but there were those layers of nuance I enjoyed. The point being made by McKay during the scene where Leo and Blanchett are getting to know one another. I enjoyed what was the social commentary there. So again, there were certainly parts to enjoy. I just, for the most part, just couldn't get on board with this one, unfortunately. But anyway, Don't Look Up. It is on Netflix, being watched by many people. I do wonder how many of those people are Ariana Grande fans, just watching her.
Just wanted to see her in a film.
I know someone who didn't want to watch it because she was in it.
Oh, there you go.
Funny.
There you go. Maybe it balances out.
A while for me to realize that was her. I had to ask out loud to the room. Is that Ariana Grande? I was like, yes. I was like, oh, yeah, I did.
Nice.